Now, when it comes to escape in Jiu-Jitsu, the fundamental method is always to escape back to guard position. The overwhelming majority of escapes in the sport of Jiu-Jitsu are escapes from one bad position back to the relative safety of guard. This has been the pattern you've been taught since your earliest times in the sport. When it comes time to coach older athletes, I break the pattern. What I do is I coach them to return not to guard, but to half guard. In particular, a knee shield. Why? Because the knee shield itself offers very good attacking opportunities, so you don't just put them back into a passive defensive guard, but rather you can work your way into a very good attacking guard straight out of an escape. And if you ever do need to put your opponent back in close guard and slow things down, perhaps get your breath back, you always have that option, courtesy of the movement pattern that we saw in the previous section. So, what does this mean? Well, it means that from any bad position in the sport, I want you to think in terms of getting back to half guard, in particular a knee shield. So, for example, if our opponent is mounted on us, classically, escaping from the mount, we get used to the idea of trapping a training partner's knee on one side, coming across to the other, and putting him back in a closed guard. Okay, that's the classic method you learned on your first days. Instead, we'll go through, capture our training partner's leg, and from here, work on just one leg into the classic knee shield position. This will work very, very well even against advanced opponents who are doing a good job of controlling your upper body with upper body grips. That knee shield will negate whatever upper body grip they have. I'll go into this in more detail very soon, don't worry. So this is the position that I want you to fight to, where you get into a half guard with a knee shield. And if you ever do need to go back to close guard, well, you guys know the fundamental movement of doing this. It's just a foot on the hip, shooting your hips out to the side, and putting them back in the safety of close guard. Okay, so you get two for the price of one. You get the chance of getting to a very good attacking half guard position, or if you should ever need it, you can always convert that very easily to a full guard and take the safety option. My theme that I'm going to push on you in this video is that almost every position in which you can run into trouble, side control, mounted position, rear mounted position, etc., can almost all be resolved by getting back to the safety of half guard. I'm going to encourage you to form every kind of escape. Say, for example, out of side control, we're going to finish our elbow escapes, not in a full guard, but rather here in a classic knee shield. So when this guy comes forward, you're in a position to hold him off in controlled distance. If you ever need to go to close guard, well, you're certainly going to have the firepower to do it out of knee shield. But you'll also have many other fine options where you can start coming up and attacking this guy in ways that we'll be looking at later on in the video. Okay? It doesn't matter what position we're in. Guys behind us, when we start that action of scooting out to a given side and moving over as this guy comes up on top of us, we're always looking to get our body into that classic knee shield position. And it's from here that we do all of our best work. Okay? So the general pattern that we'll be looking at when we go through our escapes is not so much escape bad position directly to guard, but rather escape bad position directly to knee shield. This will give you the option of direct counterattacks out of half guard. That's something I always favor, the spirit of offense out of a defensive movement, or the safety option, because whenever you have that knee shield, it's easy for you to convert to half guard just by putting your foot on the hip and swiveling your hips out. Now, it's time for us to get into some concrete escapes. Let's start off with one of the worst positions in the sport. Your opponent got mounted on you. The classic escape from mount will always be the elbow escape. In my opinion, for older, less athletic players, this is the best method, the single best method of getting out of the mounted position. We'll do it with the proviso that we're not going to escape to guard position, but rather into half guard, knee shield in particular. So let's look at getting out of a good opponent's mounted position. We have to assume, fellas, that if someone's good enough to get mounted on you, they're probably better than you are. So they're not going to make basic mistakes. When they get mounted, so often you see people demonstrate mount escapes with the feet open like this. Okay, if your opponent has any skills, the first thing you're going to do is be closing up their feet, even locking their ankles. Second thing they're going to do is they're going to lock on a crossface on you. Next thing you're going to do is put their arm out wide. So that it's very hard for you just to hit a basic elbow escape. When you see this kind of thing going on, it's important that we learn to uncross our training partner's feet. So from here, we're going to use our feet to find his. Okay, you won't be able to see what's going on with your eyes, because your view is completely obstructed. So instead, we use the sensitivity in our feet to find his feet like so. Now we're going to push and separate his feet and get our feet just inside our training partner's feet. So when he tries to relock them, it's quite difficult for him to do so. Now our whole thing is to get our legs, in particular my knee, inside his knee. How are we going to do this? We're going to do it by framing across our training partner's opposite hip. So my right hand goes to his right hip, just like so. And from this position, we're going to start the action of turning, straightening our leg out so that my toes point down towards the mat and I turn onto my side. Once my knee points down to the mat, it's relatively easy for me to start bringing my knee under my opponent's shin. Even if he brings his knee forward from here, I can just turn and get my knee going underneath his shin. That makes it relatively easy for us to reach across and catch his ankle. Once we get the ankle, now I just point my knees at the ceiling. Watch Brian's knee. It comes off the mat. Once it comes off the mat, it's very easy for us to capture that whole knee. Now, many people start to celebrate and say, oh, I captured his leg, it's over. No, it's not over. It's easy for your opponent now to pommel in an underhook. And then from here, he can start passing to the opposite side. And then work his way right back to the mount. It doesn't do you any good to escape from the mounted position if you just give up arm position like that. Okay, he'll just remount every single time. So when we start off, we start with that frame, right hand on right hip. He goes into the mounted position, and we start by finding our training partner's feet, and we separate them. We get our feet between his, so when he tries to relock them, it's difficult for him to do so. Now from here, we start that action of turning onto our side and getting our knee to face down to the mat so we can easily get inside his shin. Make your legs strong. So there's the frame. There's our foot on his foot. There's our foot inside his. Now, from here, we start that action of turning our knee down and capturing the foot. Once we capture the foot, that's the hard part. The easy part is capturing the knee. Now, there's a danger. He's going to swim his arm in. Don't be worried about this. Shrimp out and force your knee in as a shield. So when he tries to use that underhook, he'll never be able to use it effectively. You're in control of his hip. Now from this position, we finagle our hands across and we come up to our elbow, just like so. So when he tries to put weight on us, it's almost impossible. You're in an excellent defensive position. From here, we bring our hand around our training partner's waist. We swish our legs, and now we're in half guard. So once again, training partner is in an excellent attacking position. My right hand goes to his right hip, and it's supported by the other hand. So when he tries to come up further, he can't do so. It's locked where he is. Now from here, we find our training partner's feet and separate them. Now I turn onto my side and I point my knee down at the mat so I can easily bring my knee under his shin. Once you capture the ankle, the knee is easy. Just point your knees at the ceiling. It takes his knee off the mat and makes it relatively easy to go. Now, if my opponent was asleep and I got my underhook, I win. But if he's good enough to get mounted, he's probably good enough to know what an underhook is. Now, from here, look how I bring my foot up to his knee. I shift, and then I start to find space to bring my knee in. Don't bring it in at the wrong angle where I can't penetrate with the knee. You'll have to turn your knee slightly downwards. Nothing crazy, just enough to fit inside your training partner's hip. And my shin extends into his hip. So one leg pulls and the other pushes. Now I get my second hand across and I start building up to this elbow. Like so. Move your face. Now, from this position, when he tries to drive forward, very, very difficult. You're in an excellent position to go around his waist. You're in an excellent position now to start working from half guard and going on the attack from another angle. I'm going to demonstrate with our feet towards the camera. There's our defensive hand frame. We take our feet and get inside his. Now from this position, look how we just turn onto our side. A small bridge, and there's my knee pointing down to the mat. My foot is higher than my knee. If my knee is higher than my foot, I'll never get behind my training partner's shin. It's always about getting my foot higher than my knee. And as a result, we can go through and capture the ankle. We lift and stop. He takes the underhook. From here, we shift, and we get our knee inside. From here, we've got the space we need. We grip, and we're in the perfect half guard attacking position. From another angle, hand goes across the hip, backed up by the second hand like so. So when he comes forward and mounts, you've got good control of his hips. We separate his feet, strong feet. Now, a little bridge, catch. Catch the ankle, lift, shift 1, 2, legs go in, knee shield. He tries to work from knee shield, finds it quite difficult. And from here you can move his body weight around. And soon we'll see there's a ton of attacks from those good positions. What are the key elements here? Okay, first, forming that good frame that goes across our training partner's head. When he comes in tight, as long as his feet are connected together, it's very hard for you to get inside his ankles. So instead, fight the feet first. Separate them. Get inside. So when he tries to relock his feet, it's quite difficult for him to do so. When I bridge, I don't look for height in the bridge. I just turn onto my side so that I can get that critical position where my foot is higher than my knee and my left knee points down to the mat. So that as I bring my knee up towards my elbow, I can easily triangle his legs. Now I just point my knees at the ceiling so that his knee becomes weightless and light. It becomes very easy to capture it. Ideally, I'd like to take an underhook. But he's in this top position, there's a good chance he'll take an underhook, especially if he knows what he's doing. So now the next thing is to penetrate my left knee inside. Can't do it from here, so I've got to shift. How do I do it? I move his head with my bicep. Then from here, in goes my knee. And Brian will tell you, you feel the tension of the shin and the calf holding on. Now, we form a frame in front of our training partner's head. We push with our legs and come up to an elbow. When he tries to drive forward on you, almost impossible. And now it's so easy for us to get into that classic half guard position when we can be very, very effective indeed. So this is a classic elbow escape, but not an elbow escape to guard position, an escape into a half guard position featuring the knee shield. Now you'll remember, guys, that I said there was a safety option, and we saw it during the guard retention element. Anytime you have this knee shield, if you need to take a break and slow things down, and as an older or less athletic athlete, that's quite often. The older you get, the more you need it. Don't be afraid just to convert from half guard to full guard. And again, fellas, it's so easy to do this. This fundamental two-step pattern that we keep coming back to. So simple but so effective. We lock up. We start that action separating our training partner's feet. And then from here, we capture the first leg. We put the knee shield in place and build up to an elbow. Anytime we want, we can always just put the foot on the hip. And once you put that foot on the hip, it's the easiest thing in the world just to scoot your hips around the corner, shift, and lock up a closed guard. Now your opponent has to stop whatever they're doing and start all over again when it comes to guard passing. It's a great way for older athletes to frustrate and slow down younger, fitter, stronger, more explosive opponents. Anytime you have that half guard, you've got the option of attacking with the underhook, or if you're feeling conservative and you just need to take a break in the action because you're older and less athletic than your opponent is, you need to slow things down, don't be afraid to put that foot on the hip and go back to the fundamental movement. Put them back in close guard, get that secure connection, and slow everything down. Now, we've looked at the idea of guard retention. Now we're going into the idea of escape from pins. And those two concepts are very closely linked for older, less athletic players. The basic point I'm trying to put on you is this. When you're older or less athletic, you want to have control over distance. And the single best way for you to do this is through the knee shield. The knee shield gives you two ways to go. You can use it to enter into very offensive half guards, or you can use it into conservative close guards. And depending on your physical state of being, how tired are you? Are you 8 minutes into a 10-minute match and you're just trying to hold this younger athletic guy off? Take close guard. Are you early in the match? You want to get some points or get to a submission hold? Go to half guard. This simple way of controlling distance is the key for both guard retention and pin escapes. Normally, your escapes go back to the safety of close guard. I'm encouraging you to instead think about all of your elbow escapes culminating in the knee shield position. And from there, you can choose either offense or defense depending upon what you want to do. I can attest from personal experience, when I came back from my hip replacement, most of my normal escapes were impossible for me to use. But the one escape that never let me down, even when I first came back and I had almost no mobility, was the elbow escape. The elbow escape is the king of movements for less athletic people because it requires almost no mobility in order to be highly effective with it. All it requires is good, subtle body positioning. And that's exactly what we're going over now. Let's look at the case of side control, side elbow escapes, putting this guy back, and we're going to put him back in, I'm sure you guessed it by now, half guard with a knee shield. So Brian's got me pinned across side. First things first. Let's rotate this way. Okay, first things first. This is my inside arm. I always want roughly half of its length inside my training partner's hip. Don't put your hand on the hip and try to bench press people. You're going to get exhausted quickly. Don't just put the point of your elbow in. He's just going to sit through and your elbow's going to come out. No good. So we want to get about half the length of our forearm inside his hip. Ideally, I'd like to have this hand hidden here or here. But usually when you get pinned, guys, the situation is not ideal. Let's be honest, okay? Usually it's a sign that the other guy's pretty good. He's probably even better than you are. So we've got to work with compromised arm position, okay? So we're going to imagine our arm is here in this slightly compromised position. If I didn't have my arm here in a good position, it really would be compromised because now Brian could just grab an underhook, step around, go into arm locks, and finish me pretty easily here, okay? So the first thing we want to do when you have your arm in that compromised position is make sure the guy can't spin around your head or go across your body. Okay, if he goes across my body into the mount, he scores and he's got my arm jacked up over my head and now he's probably going to finish me. So the first thing we need to do is just to be defensively responsible. Okay, how are we defensively responsible? By taking half of our forearm inside the hip and then taking our knee right to the point of his hip. Right, let's rotate. Okay, watch my right knee. I put it right there in the point of his hip. I take my foot slightly higher than my knee. If my foot is lower than my knee, when I try to insert my knee, it just runs into Brian's hip bone, and I never penetrate with the knee. But when my foot is higher than my knee, for every inch that I move out, my knee can move in, sitting upright, until my elbow and knee can touch each other and form an effective V-shaped frame inside my opponent. And it's that which will enable me to push on his body and put this guy back in half guard. So, with all that in mind, first things first, defensive responsibility. I can't let this guy just mount or spin around my head into arm locks. The key to stopping that is forearm inside on the hip, my knee against the pocket of his hip, and my foot higher than my knee. So if Brian tries to advance to the mount, he's caught between my knee and my elbow. If he tries to spin around my head for the arm lock, he's caught by my right forearm. So I'm defensively responsible. Now, to get out of here, I'm going to move Brian's head over my head. So I take my bicep and I move his head over mine. And as a result, I can easily touch my knee and elbow together. Now, here's the fun part. Brian, let's rotate this way. Look. Good. Now, watch my right knee. I'm going to take my right knee and put it inside his knee so that I can move his leg around at will, almost like a knee lever. Then I'm going to feed his leg to my left leg and step over it. And as a result, we now find ourselves in a half guard type situation. Now, unfortunately, it's half guard with him with an underhook, which means if I just stop in this position, Brian can just shoulder pressure me and we pass my guard. Okay, so that's no good. Let's see the escape again, Brian. So, once again, the escape, defensive responsibility, body position. Move his head, insert your knee, feed his leg, your leg, and get to half guard. Now what are we going to do? We're going to move his head a second time. I put my bicep on his ear. I give a little bridge, nothing crazy. I'm not trying to flip this guy over or anything like that. I just want to move his head so that I can feed my knee inside. When my knee goes in, don't have your foot higher than your knee. When you do that, your knee just impacts on his ribs and hips and you'll never penetrate. You always want your foot higher than your knee so that it goes in just the right amount. Once you go in this position, you've got your shin in front. Now we can start pushing on our training partner. We can bring our frame across in front and then we can immediately build up to an elbow, just like so. So when he tries to put weight on us, it's impossible. We've got an excellent frame from here. Now we catch, walk over the top, and find ourselves in half guard position. And it's from here that we have so many good attacks to work with. Let's have a look at all that from a different angle. So Brian's got me in a good pin. First things first, forearm. Second, knee, foot higher than the knee. Third, move his head with a little bridge. Insert your knee. Now we're going to trap that right leg in half guard. So I bring my knee inside, straighten my body out, and pass his leg to my left leg. Now, half guard. From here, little movement moves his head. Get my foot higher than my knee so I can insert the knee shield. From the knee shield position, push, push, insert your upper body frame. From the upper body frame, we're going to build up to an elbow and get his weight off of us. Best option, take half guard. Conservative option, foot on the hip, hips out, close guard. Okay? Nothing wrong with being conservative with your options, by the way. If you're physically tired late in the match, maybe you're hit on point, so you just need a break in the action. Nothing wrong with, as an older athlete, slowing things down. Let them cook a little bit and you close guard and then get back on the attack later. So, there's our start position. There's the half guard. You're halfway there, but we're not out of the woods yet because he's still got upper body control of my head and shoulders. He can pass me from here. So we don't stop until we get that knee shield in place. Once the knee shield is in place, he tries to put cross-face pressure on. It's almost impossible. If I don't have a knee shield, Brian just cross-face me and put me in misery all day. But once that knee shield comes in, he goes to cross-face, he'll never get his shoulder to my jaw. Then we just add the idea of upper body frames and we just build up to the elbow. And it's from here that we go in and we get into all of our half guard game from this position. Okay? Let's have a look just from one more angle, Brian. Brian and I used to drill this together for years. And Brian, as you can see, is slightly built compared with many of his training partners. And so he was always looking for the most efficient way to get out. And he became a true master of the elbow escape. I've always thought it's one of the moves you do best, Brian. And it's undeniably the single most important move. And as you get older, it becomes more important. As I said, when I came back from my hip replacement, I lost 90% of my game. But the one thing that never let me down was my elbow escape. I came back more or less from the operating table, able to do that. And When all your other moves are gone and you have no mobility, that'll be the one that sticks by you. So here we are in trouble. We've got to dig ourselves out. We come through, hip out, knee comes in. Now, look how my right knee feeds me his right leg. So we've got him in half guard. Okay, that's good, but we're not out of the woods yet. If Brian acts as you would expect Brian to do, he'll put on that crossface and he'll get that knee out and he'll just pass right from here. Oh, no problem. We've got to move his head a second time, make a strong resistant body, Brian. Look how just one little bridge, move his head just enough that I can get that leg in. Fellas, sometimes you've got to be creative here. Sometimes you've got to give a little bit of hipping action to get that leg in, okay? Sometimes it just doesn't just go in by itself. You've got to get that foot higher than your knee, and sometimes you've got to wiggle your hips and move and pull. Then it goes, okay? Now from here, we get that frame in place. And if he tries to put weight on us, we just push with that legs, get that body frame, and now we're looking good to attack from half guard. So there you have it, folks. The half guard escape from side elbow escape into half guard, And this is a very, very effective way to operate. It gets you into that great attacking position at very little cost, no matter what your age or how much mobility you lack. Now, fellas, we're trying to give you a bottom game in the gi that actually works for older athletes against younger opponents. Brian and I can teach you this because we use it all the time against much younger opponents and have done for many years, despite many physical disabilities. For people lacking in mobility overall, this is the single best method of regaining control from bad situations. It is the pattern of elbow escape into half guard knee shield. Knee shield gives you the opportunity to take a very offensive route, which we'll be looking at later in the video, and a very, not completely defensive, but a safer route where you can tie an opponent up, maximize connection with closed guard, and just slow things down. So it gives you two great options depending on your physical state during the match. As you get older, you have to listen to your body as you're sparring. Sometimes you just run out of energy when you go with younger, fitter opponents, and there's times you just have to slow things down. There's other times you feel fine. The other guy's tired. You've tired him out with good body position or what have you, and you can turn it up. Well, then you take the half guard option. As a general rule, I like to see my older athletes hit their elbow escapes into half guard. I also favor the elbow escape above all other methods by a landslide when it comes to mobility compromised athletes. If you feel that mobility is not your strong suit, okay, you're getting older or you just don't come from any kind of athletic background, the elbow escape is king. If the elbow escape is king, even for young, fit athletes, it's the best move. But for older athletes, it becomes even more important. It just has to be done in a more refined way. What I'm going to encourage you to do is to see the elbow escape to half guard as the preferred route rather than a traditional elbow escape to a full guard. Not only is it easier to perform, but it tends to lead into better territory after you've completed the escape. My goal is to be able to get you to hit an elbow escape from anywhere. We've seen it from mount, we've seen it from side mount. Now let's look at a situation where your opponent is behind you, he's on your back, and you've got to hit a good elbow escape. So Brian's behind, and he's really starting to threaten me. There's a danger now. If he starts getting into my collars, that can be a real problem. Okay, so our first thing here is always going to be hand control. Brian will want to penetrate with the thumb inside my collar. So it's important from here we always cover the thumb. You are not allowed to grab thumbs. That is illegal, but you are allowed to cover thumbs. Okay, so when he goes in, that's the grip that I want to work with. When he goes in to work on the lapel now, even if he does grab the other lapel, he won't be able to finish things. You've got control of the thumb and the hand itself. Now, you will see that Brian's fingers point the direction of my escape. That's his strangle hand. His fingers give the guide as to where I should be going. So we're going to lock up his hand and cover it. As Brian tries to manipulate my lapels and go into the strangle, we're going to tilt him in the direction we want to go, out this way. So we're going to put our feet like so, and then I'm just going to turn my body and tilt over in the correct direction. Brian will want his head forward, like so that I can't get my head to the ground. So now what you need to do is take advantage of the fact that you can bring your head further forward than he can. And as a result, your head can touch the mat. Once your head starts to touch the mat, we're going to use our head to get our head lower than his head. Then from here, we're going to make our chest and hips face the ceiling by turning in towards our opponent. At this point here, do you see Brian's left foot And here, he's going to want it as high as possible. You've got to beat that left foot. That's the obstacle that you need to clear. So from this position, we're just going to take our knee and bring it forward over our training partner's ankle. So my knee is higher than his ankle. Okay? He wants his ankle higher than my knee. As long as his ankle is higher than my knee, I never get out. So our whole thing is to bring our knee and point it at the ceiling and bring our knee higher than his ankle. That's what's going to make it possible for you to start moving everything down towards the floor. As we get our shoulders down on the floor, we have one remaining goal. Your elbow, in this case it's my right elbow, must get to the mat. This is a goal so important that I cannot overstate its importance. Once my elbow touches the mat, I'm out. Doesn't matter where it touches the mat. It could touch inside here, move your arm up. It could touch inside his arm, it could touch over his arm, doesn't matter. Even if Brian got my lapel now, when he went to strangle me, it would be physically impossible. He's in the wrong body position to do it. Pull me up on top of you, Brian. Am I getting too fat for you to move, Brian? Run me down. Now he can strangle me easily. But once my back and elbow touch the mat, I can give him my neck. When he goes to go, there's just no strangle. The angle's all wrong. So your visual and tactile guide is the inside elbow to the mat. When it touches, you have to believe me, guys, you are now safe, at least from the strangle. The danger now is not the strangle, it's the mounted position. He's going to throw his leg over and get mounted. And now he can strangle me in different ways. So the new threat is no longer the strangle, it's the mount. So we're going to put our hands on his knees. I can do that now because there's no strangle threat. Okay? I couldn't put my hands on his legs if I was on top of it, he'd strangle me. But here, there's no strangle danger. So when he goes to get mounted, we just put our knee in front of his knee. And to be more precise, I put my hamstring in front of his knee. So when Brian goes to get up on top of me, he just ends up in my half guard. And then from here, I'm sure you all guessed it, we jump out and we put our knee shield there. From the knee shield, we build up to an elbow. Then we put either our arm around the waist and go to half guard, or if we're feeling a little more conservative, we put our foot on the hip and put it back in closed guard. Your choice. So let's have a look at all that again. Guys behind us. First, we cover his attacking hand. He's going to want to get his thumb inside. And if he does, it's a serious problem. So from here, we're always looking to cover that dangerous thumb of his. Lock it up. Now when he goes to strangle us, look how we bring our legs up, and then we just turn our body down to the side. That's step number one. Get down to the side that you favor. How do you know it's the one you favor? Because his fingers point the way out. Okay, it's a strangle hand. His strangle hand will point the direction you want to go. Next, we've got to beat his head. So from here, I bring my head forward, and I get my head to the mat. Even if he keeps his head down, apologies, Brian, there's no comfortable way of doing this. Just push your head into his head, and your head will go under his. Okay, sorry, Brian. Now, from this position, we're going to start turning our hips and squaring them up to the ceiling. Now, from this position, I need to get my knee above his foot. Once that occurs, I can start focusing on getting my elbow down to the mat. Once my elbow touches the mat, he can go to strangle me all he wants. It's nothing. There's no strangle. The danger now is the mount. So I start putting my hands defensively on his knee. And as he comes up on top, I throw my leg over his knee. Now from here, we come into place. Look how we want to shuffle and get our knee shield in place. So when he tries to get up on top of us, you can hold this guy off. You can build up to an elbow. You can catch him. And from here, we're ready to start attacking. See from another angle. Take that dangerous strangle hand, lock it down. From here, we're going to tilt this guy over. We're going to win the battle for head position. Get our head in good position here. We're going to make our hips face square up to the ceiling. And as a result, we can beat that bottom foot. Start finagling our knee and elbow down towards the mat. Now, as he tries to get up on top, we're always going to stuff that leg in front. Get that knee shield there. Notice how my foot is higher than my knee. My knee is higher than my foot. It will be problematic. The only exception to that is a different kind of knee shield when we come up here. We'll talk about that later in the video. But for the classic defensive shield, this is the position we want. Okay, now here we are in place. We push off and come up to an elbow. When we start looking either for offense or you're feeling tired, we put a foot on his hip, pull our hips out to the side, and put them back in a conservative close guard. So this is the classic back elbow escape, where your opponent's got the rear mounted position, sliding out, putting them back in half guard, getting to that classic knee shield, and then going from there. Now, I'm trying to portray the elbow escape as the king of escape moves when it comes to older or less athletic players. The elbow escape is the movement which requires the least athleticism in order to get out of the worst possible positions. It's my earnest belief that if you just master the elbow escape by itself and focus on using it as a means of getting to half guard, you're going to have, first, a very solid form of escape that works against almost every single position in the sport. Secondly, a move which goes in concert with all of your guard retention, as it ought to be used by older athletes. So there's a symmetry between your guard retention and your escapes. And thirdly, it leads into situations where you can either get on the attack with half guard, or if you want to shut things down and slow your opponent down, you can always convert a knee shield into a closed guard and just completely slow your opponent down. So it's like the perfect method of working for people who are mobility compromised. As I said earlier, when I came out of a hip replacement, I couldn't do most of the moves of jiu-jitsu. I could still do my elbow escape. So if I could do it then I know for sure you can do it anytime you wish. Now let's look at a situation where we're in turtle position and your opponent has a very good attacking position. He's on your back, but he does not have hooks in yet. So Brian, if you're out to my left-hand side. Okay, here's a scary situation that often occurs. Your opponent is attacking turtle position, left knee down, right knee up, and he has a seatbelt grip on you like so. Okay, that's always scary because from a seatbelt, it's a very easy adjustment for him to start getting into my collars, and then he can start strangling me. So that's not a good thing. So whenever someone gets a seatbelt, we always want to take our thumb and put it inside his wrist and hold it on like so. So when he tries to get into my collars now, his hand is blocked. He won't be able to get to my collars easily. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a situation where he no longer covers my hips. Let's rotate left, Brian. Do you see how Brian's right knee is covering my hips? Okay, that's good for Brian, it's bad for me. I want my hips to be free. So the way we're going to do this, I'm going to take my head and I'm going to look around the corner. So I get, first of all, the thumb inside his wrist. So if Brian goes to convert to a stranglehold, you can't do it. I'm blocking him out. And then the next thing we're going to do is going to bring our body weight forward. I'm going to look around the corner just like so. That enables me to bring my knee and elbow together and then to start to free my leg and get my knee higher than his knee. So that from this position, we can start an action of stepping over our training partner's ankle and catching it. Once we get to this position, we're going to pull our training partner over. And we're going to focus on getting our elbow down to the mat. Do you remember what we said about the elbow down to the mat before, guys? Once that elbow touches the mat, I can give my opponent my neck. It makes no difference. He can pull on my collars all he wants. There's no strangle now. You can hear my voice is not changing. As Brian pulls. It's fine, okay? The danger now is no longer the strangle. It's him getting on top of you. Now, from this position, I'm going to bring everything in close to my body so that as Brian comes up on top, I'm just going to put my foot right there inside my training partner's leg. And as he comes up on top, we now find ourselves right back in our favorite position, knee shield in place. As he tries to take top position, you've got your frames up and you're in a position now to start building up to an elbow and making your decision as to where you're going to go. And from here, many ways for us to get into our counterattacks. So let's have a look at that from a different angle. With Brian attacking from the back, the first thing I want to do is get that thumb inside my training partner's wrist. Now we're going to turn our head around the corner and create a situation where I can start stepping over my training partner's leg and catch that ankle of his. Once we catch that ankle, I'm just going to turn and roll through. I can't stay here forever, guys, because Brian can take his foot and kick out. But I don't have to stay here forever. I just have to stay long enough to get this elbow down to the mat. So as he's fiddling around for the collars, I get that elbow down to the mat. The second that elbow touches, I don't care about a strangle anymore. I just care about top position. So I put my leg in like so. If Brian goes to get up on top of me, we're in a situation now where we can get that knee shield in place. Once the knee shield's in place, you know what to do. Now we can start playing our half guard game. If you're feeling conservative, you always put your foot on the hip and put them back in closed guard. Let's have a look at that option. So here we are, Brian's out to my side. First things first, we're always getting our thumb inside his wrist, just like so. We're staying compact down on the floor. I never want to be up here where we can start throwing feet in and establishing hooks. So we're always compact down on the mat. My head goes around the corner, and then from here we start that slouching action, which enables us to step over his ankle. Now from here we roll our man through, taking him up and over, fighting to get that elbow inside. As he comes up on top of us, everything's inside. We start that action of lifting, turning, and getting that knee shield in place. He's down obviously from this position. So easy for us now to start coming up and forming good attacks. If we feel we want a more conservative option, just put this guy back in guard. Well, we can do that too from another angle. First things first, always thumb inside our training partner's wrist. Second thing, our head goes around the corner. Then we join our elbow and knee together. We start that slouching action, which enables us to step over and capture our training partner's ankle. Now we'll start rolling on through and getting the elbow down through the mat. So he comes up on top. There's that classic knee shield in place. Once the knee shield goes in, we're in a good position to start rolling this guy through. So this is a very fine way of hitting elbow escapes from a scary turtle situation where your opponent has the seat belt, he's threatening your back, but he doesn't yet have hooks in. Now, as you probably guessed by now, one of my ambitions in this video is to make you capable of hitting an elbow escape from pretty much anywhere. One of the beauties of elbow escaping is you can do exactly that. It's the move that requires almost no mobility. It can be done at any age, any belt level, works on the best people in the world, and will work throughout your jiu-jitsu career, times when you're injured, when your mobility is compromised, or if you're getting older. We should be able to hit this in almost any situation. We've looked at situations where our opponent was mounted on us, when they were side mounted. We've looked at situations where they were on our back but without hooks. Now let's look at a situation where they're on our back but they're in front of us. This usually means front headlock situations. It could also mean body lock situations. So their chest is on our back but they're in front of us. And we can still hit an effective elbow escape from here. Brian, if you're on this side. Okay, let's look at a situation where Brian has me in a front headlock in here. And his hands are locked like so. We're going to start by taking our elbow back towards ourselves. So my elbow comes in towards my center line. I'm going to put my outside leg up. I never put my leg up on the same side as my trap down. That gives my opponent an easy cradle. They can flip me on my back from here. So we always make sure as they get their lock, we put this leg here up and we pull this elbow back. What I want to do is take my head across to the opposite armpit. Brian wants my head in his right armpit. I want my head in his left armpit. So as my elbow comes back, I just bring my head across, and I'm just going to reach here for my training partner's calf muscle. Now I'm going to slide my knee in towards his knee, and I'm going to step over my training partner's ankle. As he holds on tight to his front headlock from here, I'm just going to recline back towards the floor, and my head comes out quite easily. The front headlock is designed to stop me coming forward, but it doesn't stop me from tilting down to the floor and getting my shoulders in place. And as a result, we get a good grip on our training partner's leg, just like so. Now, as I'm sure you've all guessed, we start putting frames up on our training partner. As he tries to come in and hurt us, we get that knee shield back in place. So when he tries to work from here, the knee shield really does a good job of holding him off. From here, we're always looking to build up to an elbow. We're always looking to get to the half guard position. If we're feeling conservative, then it's okay for us just to put our foot on our training partner's hip and pull him around the corner and get into a closed guard position. Let's look at that from another angle. So Brian has me in a front headlock, hands locked like so. We're going to put our leg up, and we're going to bring our elbow back towards our center line, and my head is going to start turning across like so. My hand reaches out and catches my training partner's calf muscle. We start the action of slouching down to the side and we step over our training partner's ankle. Even as he holds on tight to his grip, it's easy for us now just to recline backwards and put our arm in here around our training partner's waist. Second hand goes in place, and there's that knee shield ready to go. From the knee shield, we're always looking to build up to an elbow and get to our grips. If you want to play conservative, that's fine. Put your foot on your training partner's hip, pull your body around the corner, and lock up your closed guard. From another angle. We find ourselves in a front headlock. I focus first on getting my leg out, elbow back, and my head moving over to the side. I catch my training partner with the calf muscle and I knee slide in towards him. Now I step over his ankle, and as he holds on tight, look how I just recline backward. Very, very hard for him to hold on. From that position, knee shield goes into place. He tries to drive forward, finds himself stopped on the frame, the shield. We come up, we either go around the waist, or we put our foot on our training partner's hip, we pull our whole body around the corner, and as a result, we can easily put this guy back in a closed guard position. So this is a very, very efficient way to elbow escape out of a very problematic situation. Now, some of your opponents are not going to be using front headlock. They're going to be putting their hands on your armpits, or some guys even lock the body. I'm going to look at a situation where he's just holding the armpits, just like so. If he locks the body, we'll probably do another form of escape. Now, from this position, as he works here, look how we can use exactly the same strategy as previously. We bring our elbows back in, we step up with our foot, and we start that action of curling back and slouching underneath our training partner. As we hit that slouch, look how our outside foot steps over our training partner's leg, and we pull them into place just like so. Now we convert to half guard, we put in that knee shield. As always, my foot slightly higher than my knee. As a result, we can start that pushing action, which enables us to go in and get on the attack. From another angle, the opponent's got his chest on our back, but without the front headlock. So as always, we're keeping everything short, everything compact. We start getting angle on our training partner. Now we just step over our training partner's leg and pull them right away into a classic half guard. From half guard, so many ways for us to start operating. It's a very, very effective attack. Effective defense anytime your opponent is attacking from the front. Now, what we want to be able to do is create a vision of you as someone who can elbow escape from anywhere. Now, there are some positions you'll probably be familiar with that we haven't covered yet. What about north-south? If you look at most north-south escapes, they do involve rapid body movements, inversions, high legs, etc., etc. And for older athletes, these can be pretty challenging. What I'm going to do is give you a very boring and rather conservative way of getting out of north-south that actually works when you don't have much mobility. The basic idea is north-south, our bodies line up, as the name implies, north-south. We're simply going to turn our body. We're going to convert it from north-south into a side position. And then we're going to hit a good old elbow escape from side control. Let's have a look at how this might work. Okay, Brian starts off in a north-south position on top. Conventionally, in north-south, we're typically encouraged to go into all kinds of high leg escapes, turning escapes, etc. These require not a huge amount, but some degree of body mobility. Okay, so the question becomes, well, what if you don't have body mobility? What do we do now? Okay, I'm going to encourage you to convert from north-south situations and change the angle back to cross-side. The good news is it's actually pretty easy to do this. How is it going to happen? You'll see that my right hand is on my opponent's right-hand side. That's how he's north-south. But what if I were to take that hand from his right side and bring it over to his left side? Then it would become a fairly conventional frame as it would be from side control. Then we take our other arm and we pommel it around and it goes into the classic side control position. Now I'm going to walk my body. When Brian goes to follow my walk, my right hand makes it difficult for him. So I walk more quickly than he does. And as a result, we have now converted this from a north-south situation to a side control situation. And you guys all know what to do from side control. We're going to elbow escape. We're going to take our knee up high. We're going to move our training partner's head. We're going to bring our knee inside our training partner's knee. And as a result, we can catch a hold of his leg with our leg and start converting this into a half guard situation. Once we get to half guard, you all know what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to move our training partner's head and get that knee shield in place. And as a result, you guessed it, we can push away and either put him in half guard, or if you're feeling more conservative, bring your bottom foot through to the hip, pull your body around the corner, and lock up a close guard. Let's have a look at this from another angle. So, Brian's got me pinned in here. From the north-south position, we're going to take our hand and put it through as a frame here, just like we were in bottom side control. We're going to bring our second arm around the corner. We're going to lock our frames in place. When Brian tries to maintain his side control position, he finds that my frame slows him down so that when I walk, I catch up to him. You can see now we're perpendicular. And as a result, when we start to work from positions like this, it's pretty easy for us to move that training partner's head, get our knee between ourselves and him, and from here, push, 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 and get back into the classic half guard situation. From half guard, we lock up. Then from here, get our knee shield in place. Once we've got that knee shield, we're always looking to get that bottom arm frame, pushing, and coming up to our elbow. As a result, we can go right on through and start working from half guard bottom. From another angle, Brian's got me pinned north-south. I take my right hand and I come through and capture my training partner's hip. Second hand comes in just like so. I go walking, hunting my training partner's hip, converting it from north-south to side control. Now from here, we start that action of bringing our knee inside our training partner's leg, capturing our training partner's leg in the classic half guard. Now from here, we get that knee shield in place and we start that action of push, and building up to an elbow together. And as a result, we're in a perfect position now to start turning people over. Okay? So this is how we convert classic north-south position into a side position so you can hit that elbow escape from anywhere. This gives you the ability to escape from north-south without having to make recourse to inversion, high legs, turning, etc., etc. Now let's continue this project to turn you into someone who can hit an elbow escape from anywhere, on any body, despite any limits and athleticism you might have because of age or whatever lack of athletic background you have. Now let's look at the knee on belly position. Not quite as common as the other pins, but it's something you've got to know how to get out of. You never know. Your opponent can hit you with any kind of pin. You don't get to choose how they pin you. They choose that. So we've got to be ready for anything. So if Brian hits me with the knee on belly position, how are we going to react? As he comes up, as always with knee on belly, this leg here will be out, his knee on your stomach, just like so. We're going to start off by taking our hand here to our training partner's shoelaces. We're going to keep this elbow in close and post our hand on our training partner's belly button. As a result, we're able to start moving our body out and we can throw our foot and catch our training partner just in like so. Once we make that catch on the ankle, we can be a little more risk-taking with our hands now. Take your foot out of the bun. If I start reaching here and he gets underhooks, Brian can step over into arm bars. Okay, that can definitely ruin your day. But once we put that foot of his between our legs, that's no longer an option. He can't just spin around into arm bars now. At least it's significantly more difficult for him. Once we capture the ankle, you'll remember what we talked about with regards elbow escapes from mount. Get the ankle first, you get the knee second. So now our hands go from the ankle to our training partner's knee. And we're just going to push everything down between our legs and into a classic half guard type situation. I'm sure we can all guess where this is going. We take our body and scissor it out to the side and put that knee shield in place. As always, my foot is slightly higher than my knee, so we get that shin of ours right there into the pocket of his hip. So when Brian goes to move around, it's tough. He has excellent control over this guy. And then from here, we're always looking to come up to our elbow and get into the winning positions that we seek. So from another angle, Brian does a good job of getting into the knee on belly position. From here, we're going to start off by getting the foot either at the sole or the shoelace, whichever one you find more comfortable for you. And then from here, we bring our foot around the corner. We capture the ankle. Once you get the ankle, you don't have to worry so much about arm bars, kimuras, etc., etc. And as a result, we can put two hands on our training partner's knee and capture that knee. Once you feel we've done a good job of capturing the knee, then it's always about getting our hips out to the side and getting that shin all the way in as a shield. From that position, we start building up and getting to a situation where we either go on the attack from half guard, or if you're feeling more conservative, we just put our foot on our training partner's hip and we start the action of pulling through and ending up in guard position. So from another angle, Brian's got knee on belly. From here, we give a little bump, we get a hold of our training partner's foot. I don't want to put my hand on the knee too early. We can start underhooking, going into kimuras, jujigatami, etc. So initially, hand goes in here towards the stomach. Give that little bump, and we stuff that foot inside our legs. Now it's a little safer for us to get a hold of that knee of his. From this position, we're always looking to shoot our hips out, and then from here, bring that knee shield in. Now as we push away, we come up and find ourselves in the perfect position to start going into counter offense. So this is a very simple way for us to remove that annoying knee on belly and get back into your elbow escapes. Now, we've seen a bunch of material with regards guard retention and pin escapes. We've also seen that the two methodologies that we're employing from those two situations are strongly related to each other. They all funnel back into that half guard knee shield type situation, which we're trying to portray as the best for people who are mobility compromised, either because of age or some kind of lack of athletic pedigree or what have you. The basic idea is that the movements required to be effective from knee shield require almost no special athletic gifts. You don't have to go to invert. You don't have to have any kind of explosive strength. It's something you can do effectively at almost any age, at almost any kind of physical condition. And you can do it realistically against good opponents. It's not just some meaningless drivel about how old people can be good against younger people. You see good people at the highest levels using this kind of approach all the time with great success. So it's proven to work. I thought now Brian and I would just move around a little bit and just give you a sense of what you're going to be trying to do as you train with your friends in terms of always maneuvering back from guard retention into these half guard type situations with a knee shield. Or if you do get past, and that's going to happen when you're older, you get tired and sometimes the guy passes, that's okay. Let him pass, go into side control, mount or what have you, work your escapes, and just get back to the position. Remember, guys, as you get older, you can give ground a little more, as it were. It's not a tragedy to get your guard passed in the gym. And again, in a competition when you're 25 years old, it might be the difference in winning and losing. But when you're 50 years old going against someone who's 19 years old, you can give ground a little bit. You can be like an army that retreats in order to get a tactical advantage later on. That way you don't get burned out and exhausted trying to fight for every square inch of ground. You can retreat and then come back stronger in a few minutes when you've gotten your breath back and worked. So don't put such a demand upon yourself to never get your guard pass when you go over a certain age. It's fine to let them pass for a little bit, escape, and get back to work. So Brian, let's just move around a little, just working from guard situations. So there you have it, guys. Just some basic ideas how you can retain guard and get back into guard if you've lost it without a huge need for things like inversion, rolling, high legging, all the things we normally associate most with guard retention and pin escapes. A fairly low impact way of working involves just elbow escapes from everywhere, with the goal of putting your opponent back in some kind of variation of knee shield. If you can do this, I truly believe you can be highly effective against much younger, more athletic opponents for a long period of time. What I want to avoid in this video is just to give you guys a simple collection of techniques. Okay, you can learn techniques from many sources, and to some degree they'll help you. But I want to go further than that. I want to give you techniques embedded in tactics. Okay, because it's always going to be the combination of technique and tactics that makes you effective in a competitive situation. When it comes to older or less athletic athletes working against younger, fitter athletes, it's my belief that you need to start changing tactics just as much as you need to start studying different kinds of techniques. Being successful as an older or less athletic player largely comes down to your tactical senses on the mat. How good are you at employing tactics to overcome superior physicality in your opponents? Ordinarily, if I were coaching a young, competitive athlete, I would never counsel them to deliberately lose positional battles. Okay, because it's too easy to lose a match that way. Someone passes your guard, pins you, you can easily lose a match just on the scoreboard alone. But when you're a non-competitive older athlete working out in the gym or if you're in a situation against someone much younger than yourself, so presumably it's not in competition, because in competition you'll be facing people in your own age bracket. It'll be in a non-competitive setting in the gym. And as a result, as an older athlete, I want you to start playing a little more fast and loose with the general tactics of jiu-jitsu. You can give up a lot more as an older or less athletic athlete. The understanding being that you're prepared to lose a battle in order to win a war. The battle that I won't encourage you to lose, but I will tell you that it's okay to lose, at least in a gym setting, a non-competition setting, is the battle between position and control. You get scored in jiu-jitsu for position. And in a situation where score is irrelevant, such as a gym confrontation, or even in competition in certain kinds of rule sets, it's fully permissible for you to lose a positional battle while winning a control battle. Let me give you some examples. If Brian Glick passes my guard in this fashion, he has won the positional battle. He's passed my legs, and this would be a scoring position if we were engaged in a competitive match. But you will notice something. Both of my arms are under Brian Glick's arms. I have double underhooks. So Brian has ostensibly scored positionally. But do you think he controls me in this position? Okay, ostensibly he does. He's pinning me in side control. But anyone who's been doing jiu-jitsu for even a short period of time will tell you the control that he has, it's not an illusion, but it's certainly not any powerful form of physical control. I can easily move underneath his body weight, courtesy of those two underhooks. Even if he employs a crossface, let's rotate here, he has a crossface, okay? If I have underhooks, I should always be able to beat his crossface. How? By simply taking my hips up off the mat and getting my ear to my training partner's chest. As long as he's not on top of my body in the mounted position, okay, now my underhooks have no value. But as long as he's side control, these underhooks of mine have tremendous value. I can easily dominate the space between his armpit and his hip, and I can move my opponent's body. So that even powerful control mechanisms like a crossface have no effect. As he crossfaces me, once I get my ear to my training partner's chest, he tries to re-crossface me. There's nothing. He can never crossface me unless this shoulder is on the mat. Now he can crossface me. But when I have an underhook, I can always turn into a crossface and take my shoulder off the mat and get onto my side. Guys, I can't tell you how important this is. The difference between being pinned with my two shoulders on the mat, which is good for him and terrible for you, versus this, a situation where I'm on one shoulder, where I can easily bear someone's weight. Let's do a simple experiment. Brian, put your chest on mine and take your knees off the mat. You don't have to hold me. Just put your weight on me. Just put your weight on me. Now, Brian, you're getting heavier as you get older. You can hear the strain in my voice as the powerfully built physique of Brian Glick sits squarely on my chest and diaphragm. Even though Brian weighs less than me, you can hear this pressure in my voice as this fat bastard sits on top of me in this position. Now, thank you, Brian. My God, the things I do, the risks I take with my body, my God. Now, let's contrast that with a situation where I'm on my side. And Brian does the same thing. And you can hear there's no strain in my voice whatsoever. There is a world of difference between being on your side, where you can bear weight very, very easily, versus flat on your back, where it's actually quite a strain for me to bear even the tiny weight of Brian Glick. Imagine if it was someone big like Placido. My God, I'd die in this situation. So what we're always looking to do is to go from situations here, where if Brian has an underhook on me, he can flatten my left shoulder to the mat and keep my two shoulders on the mat. Now when he applies weight to me, I feel it right in my diaphragm. It's really constraining. Now contrast that with a situation where I have an underhook on him. And as a result, even when he cross-faces me, I can easily get my ear to his chest. And from this position, when he puts all of his weight on top of me, you hear my voice doesn't even change even a small amount. Okay, I can easily bear his weight. This is where we want to be. And from situations like this, we can move underneath opponents. We can come up into single legs. We can come up to turtle position. We can quite easily put this guy back in guard. We can do all kinds of things. Okay, if you can move underneath your opponent's body weight, it doesn't matter if you lose a positional battle because you can always put him back in guard. Okay, now in a match, it might matter because then you could fall behind on points and lose a match. But in a gym situation, and presumably if you're in your 50s rolling with someone who's in their 20s, it is a gym situation because, and if it was a competition, you'd be matched with someone your own age bracket. So in these non-competition settings, as an older athlete fighting in the gym with someone who's much younger than you, it's okay to lose a positional battle, provided you don't lose the control battle. As long as my two arms are underneath my opponent, he never really controls me. The crossfit is worthless, and I can move underneath his body at any given moment. Okay, so yeah, he passed my legs, but so what? I can just move underneath his body weight. Remember, he only really controls you if he controls movement. And as long as you have two arms underneath his and he's across your side, he's not mounted, that changes everything. As long as he's across your side, you can move underneath him. So as an older athlete, I can encourage you to employ tactics that I would never encourage competition athletes to use. Someone's in my guard, and I know they have a good passing ability. If I start with my two hands underneath them, just like so, and this guy just runs into a cross-body position, it means nothing. So from here I can always move underneath them and get back into the same guard that we were in earlier. Okay? They'll never control you and flatten you out, Brian might arm. Even though I weigh more than Brian. As long as his two arms are underneath me, there's no amount of cross-face pressure that will enable me to control this guy. He can always just flick his body up, start moving onto the side, and then from here he can get up underneath my body weight. Even though I weigh more than Brian. Okay, so you can start to take risks in gym matches with younger opponents, where as long as you have two arms underneath their arms, you can sacrifice position briefly. You can even create situations where you can let them on top of you for a certain amount of time, let time go by, let them frustrate themselves while you play possum underneath their pins, knowing that your arms are in a good, safe position. You can also have situations where if you feel someone's a very strong guard passer, you can play tactics like this. Let's say, for example, I feel Brian's just a very, very strong guard passer who's constraining my two legs, and all I'm going to do is just put my two hands inside his armpit. So as I feel like, okay, he's probably going to pass me here, I just take my two hands and just put them under his armpit. And as he passes my guard, what happens? Yeah, he passed my guard, but I got double underhooks. So when he tries to pin me, he'll never prevent me from getting my ear to his chest. He'll never be able to prevent me from getting a hold of his legs. And now from here, we can easily start the action of escaping. We'll go into those escapes soon, don't worry. Remember, he only truly pins you in side control if he controls your two shoulders. And the best way for him to do that is to control the underhook and the crossface. Or even better, double underhooks. And then from here, he pins my two shoulders to the mat. Now I'm pinned. Okay? But as long as I'm underneath both of his arms, let's rotate for the camera. He has got a full crossface on me. He can lock his hands, he can put a full crossface on. You know he's got a legitimate crossface when you hear my voice starting to change with the pressure. As he starts driving, you can hear it's a serious crossface. Now from this position, I can always get my ear to the chest. Okay, once the ear comes to the chest, he can put all of his weight on me. He can do whatever he wants. He can bounce up and down, do all kinds of things. You can hear there's no strain whatsoever in my voice. And in positions like this, I can easily start putting people back in guard and move underneath their body weight. Okay? As long as you have two underhooks in side control situations, you can always move underneath their body weight. You can always remove a crossface and get your ear to your opponent's chest. I keep using that phrase, ear to chest. What does it mean? Well, here, when he has the underhook, I have no means of turning into my opponent. And as a result, when he puts crossface pressure on, you will hear in my voice the pressure of the crossface. Now, let's contrast that with a situation where I have an underhook. He can put that full crossface on. You can hear again my voice changing with the pressure, put some pressure on. And it's an easy thing for me. Just put my ear onto his chest. Once my ear touches the chest, he can put all of his crossface pressure and it means nothing. He can't even get to the crossface now. And I can always turn up underneath him and come up to my base or what have you in those situations. Okay? So you can lose the positional battle. I can pass your guard, and in a situation where points aren't being counted, it's not a competition, it's more like a gym sparring session, it means nothing. Because as long as you're underneath his two arms, he's never going to pin you in any kind of serious fashion. And when you decide it's time for you to get out, you're going to be able to get out. So I'm going to encourage you to take an approach where it's okay to have someone pass your guard for brief periods of time, provided both of your arms are underneath his arms. Because then his pin is an empty pin. It's not a pin that controls your shoulders. And as a result, you'll always be able to get out when you decide to do so. So we can play a game where someone tackles my legs, for example. I just put my hands in here, legs. From here, he goes around to pass. And you're in place. If he tackles my waist, you just put your hands inside, and as he goes to pass, so what? You've got your double underhooks. He goes with a tight waist, and here goes to pass. Just put two hands like you're in your lap. He passes. The way it makes more sense. And lo and behold, you're in double underhooks. Let's rotate to the cameras. Now, as we play in this position, he's got his pin, right? He's passed my guard and pinned me. And you can get out anytime you feel like it. Okay, you can, as long as you can move underneath his body weight, everything's okay. So you can play a game where you can give ground, as it were. You can be like an army with a good general, which rather than stand its ground and die where it fights, will retreat and give up some territory, knowing that it will be able to regroup somewhere else and go on to fight another day. So too with your positional battles. If I feel I'm going to be passed, just take everything in close. Just let him pass. And get to here. Because once I get to here, he can do whatever he wants with his pin. We've always got to move underneath this guy, get his body weight moving, and then go on to our own counterattacks. Okay, again, a pin is only as dangerous as your ability to pin the shoulders after you've gotten to those positions, particularly in the case of side control pins. I wouldn't advocate this kind of thing with mounted pins, okay, so that's different. Now, as hips are pinning your hips, that's a whole different category. But with regard to side control pins, when most passes are into side control, just let people come in. Get your hands underneath their arms. And again, it's about losing one battle, but making sure you win a more important battle. You can temporarily lose a positional battle while winning the control battle. I lose the position, he gets side control, but he loses control of me because I have to do two underhooks. And as a result, his pin is an empty pin, where you can easily move underneath his body weight. You can put him back in guard or get up to your knees or do anything else you want, because you can still move underneath him because he doesn't control you. You have the control grip. Double underhooks. He has position, but not control. Now, we can look at the incredible value of underhooks. When you have an opponent who's threatened to pass your guard, you can put both of your hands in a position where, as he thinks he's going triumphantly across side, your two arms go in as double underhooks on your opponent. So he gets to temporarily win a positional battle, or you get to win the control battle. Now, the control battle, I'm trying to point out, is the more important battle. Okay, you lose a smaller battle in order to win a bigger one. Why is it a bigger one? Because the pin is meaningless if you have double underhooks. At least the side pin is meaningless as long as you have double underhooks, because you can move underneath your opponent at will. And a pin where your opponent can move underneath you at will is not really a pin at all. It's no control. The guy can put you back in guard, he can get up to his knees, he can even stand up if he wants. So it's permissible when you're an older athlete and it's a non-competitive setting to temporarily give up position in order to play possum with a younger, fitter athlete, to take a breathing space, as it were, and safely put yourself in a position where you have double underhooks and you can move around underneath that guy when you decide it's time to escape. One particularly profitable way for older or less athletic athletes to escape from side control is the ankle grip method. Let's have a look at this right now. Okay, most of the time you get underhooks, you have to get up to your knees underneath your opponent. And as an older athlete, you can sometimes find this to be a little bit challenging. Sometimes you've got a faster opponent who spins around behind you and threatens to take you back. All kinds of crazy things can happen. So a nice way of doing things, instead of getting up to our knees, we're simply going to get up to our side, and then we're going to grip our training partner's ankle, and we're going to use our legs to lock onto his ankle. The second you lock up to his ankle, that takes away all of his mobility advantage. That slows down faster opponents. What do I mean by this? Let's say that Brian has stumbled in across side, but we have gotten to our double underhooks. From here, we know what to do. We take our ear and get it to our training partner's chest. I never want to stay with my arm around Brian's waist because he would step over into the mounted position and even into a mounted triangle here. That would be obviously a very bad thing. So the second we get up onto our side and we get our ear on our training partner's chest, we're going to drop our hand below our training partner's hips. Then we're going to grab a hold of his ankle. Let's rotate to this one. Okay. So I turn onto my side. Again, that experiment. If I'm on my side and Brian puts all of his weight on me, you hear my voice doesn't change at all. I can comfortably bear body weight when I'm on my side, but I cannot comfortably bear body weight when I'm flat on my back. My God, Brian. So what we're going to do is we're going to physically grab our training partner's ankle, just like so. And I'm going to elevate it. I'm going to pass it to my leg, and I'm going to lock a little triangle around my opponent's ankle. The second I get that ankle, I'm connected to him. If he tries to spin around to the other side of my body, he'll never do it now. It's locked in place. Technically, he could backstep from here, but if you have a grip around his waist, your hand goes from here back to the waist. It's safe for me to grab the waist now because he can't go into a mounted triangle. If I didn't have his ankle and I started reaching here, he could step over and go into mounted triangles. But the second I get a hold of his ankle, that's no longer an option. He tries to step over now, can't do it. Now from here, we're just going to grab a hold of our training partner's gi pants on the inside of his knee. And then from this position, I'm going to move my body underneath his, and we're just going to immediately get his knee up into the ear, just like so. When Brian goes to recover his balance, it's so difficult from these positions. And from here, we get very clean reversals. Let's have a look at this from another angle. So, Brian has done a good job of passing my legs, but I've done a good job of getting my two arms underneath his arms, so that when he goes to pin me in here, it's very, very difficult for him to do so. Now we just lift and catch. I come up to Brian's waist, and we get a grip just inside his gi pants, just like so. Now from here, it's always the same thing. We come in towards our training partner, we turn over to the side, and then we just take our hand and just push it up towards the ceiling, just like so. So when Brian tries to come back into me, it's so difficult when you control the inside of the legs with that pant grip. 4 fingers go in and grip the pants. So when Brian tries to come back into me and put me back in guard, you control the inside of his knee. It's so hard for him to work effectively from here. Okay? Let's have a look at it from another angle. So, Brian does a good job of coming in, and we do a good job of keeping our hands in close to our body, so that as Brian goes into a pass, he passes into a situation where you have double underhooks. Now, from this position, first thing is to get our ear to our training partner's chest. Then we get a hold of our training partner's ankle, we lock a triangle around it, we grab the waist. Then 4 fingers go in and grip the gi pants. Let's rotate for the camera one. From here, 4 fingers go in and grab a flap of cloth right there at the gi pants. We pull everything in, pushing our body in like so. Then we just start rotating this guy, and I take my hand and I just aggressively push it up to the ceiling. So when Brian tries to come back with his legs, it's so difficult. We just continue to push across the body, and we end up on top. So this is a very, very effective way for older, less athletic players to use those underhooks profitably and get into a strong sweeping position and get tremendous reversals, even on very young, fit opponents. Now, let's look at what I believe is the worst case scenario when you're an older or less athletic player and you're facing someone who's younger, faster, more explosive than yourself. Brian, I think you're about 10 years younger than me, so you got me on this one, buddy. I would say the worst case scenario is one where your opponent is standing and you have no physical contact with him, or he has physical contact with you, but you have no contact with him. It doesn't matter whether I'm seated or supine. In both situations, I have no control over my opponent's movement. Those are the situations where you're going to feel a deficit in speed, endurance, etc., more than any other. This is where Brian can easily start playing a side-to-side game on me. And as he's faster than I am, as I start getting into situations where I can't keep up with his speed, that's where I'm most likely to be dominated by someone who's younger, faster, and fitter than I am. So a big part of what we want to do when we play the bottom game is to make sure we spend as little time as possible in these scenarios, because they represent the maximal danger. You have no ability to control his movement. And as a result, speed is going to become a big factor. Endurance is going to become a big factor. And as an older or less athletic person, these are going to be the things that let you down the fastest. So it's very much in our favor to stay away from situations like this, or minimize the time in which you spend with no contact on an opponent, either seated or supine. As much as possible, we want to maximize contact with opponents. And from here, now you have contact, now you can start slowing them down. Now we can start playing a game which is based around control. And that is how older and less athletic players beat younger, fitter, faster players. So again, just conceptually, we want to minimize the time we spend here or here. I also include situations where he has grips on you, but you do not have grips on him. Okay, it's fine to be in a position like this, provided we have some kind of meaningful contact on our training partner. Okay, but here I have no grip on him. He can just blast past my legs as he uses speed side to side. That's where I'm most likely to end up getting past. So your goal as the older or less athletic player is to minimize the time spent in these situations where you are in bottom position and your training partner is standing over you. I explicitly say standing because that's where speed becomes much more of a factor. If Brian's on two knees, well, this is much less threatening because someone on two knees is not very fast. Okay, if he has a speed advantage, he can't really manifest it while he's down on two knees. That's not very threatening to me. Where it becomes an issue is when he starts standing up. Because a standing player has the ability to move very, very quickly, and you have no control over his movement. That's definitely going to be a problem. So your goal as the older, less athletic athlete is to spend as little time as possible in these situations. You are going to need contact with your opponent, connection to your opponent in order to be effective. He wants to minimize connection. You want to maximize it. So that's the worst case scenario. We're going to see very soon how we can get away from that worst case scenario towards something that suits us a lot better. Now, we've seen the worst case scenario. That's where our opponent is standing and we're either seated or supine with no connection to our opponent. That's where speed, explosiveness, and endurance is most likely to influence the outcome of a given matchup. That's where your younger, more athletic opponent can really take advantage of their youth and speed advantage. So our whole goal is to get connection to them, to slow them down through connection. The three most important methods of gaining connection when you are working from guard and they are standing over you are these. If we are in a supine position and someone comes in towards us, as much as possible as they go into close distance, remember they always have to be close enough to be able to get grips on your legs and pants. One excellent form of connection from these situations is for us to get a hold of our training partner's cross-collar grip, just like so. Then we go through and we take a cuff grip on our training partner like so. So now we have a situation where you have collar and cuff. Your opponent generally will require two hands to go in and control you and pass your guard. From these situations, we want to increase the connection by getting at least 1 foot inside our training partner's legs. So we have connection inside our training partner's legs. When he goes to use his right hand to pass our guard now, it's going to be difficult. When he goes to use his left hand, even more difficult. Okay, you're connected on the inside, you can start to work on your training partner's balance. When I have no feet inside, even from here, an opponent can be dangerous and start passing our guard. So we want some kind of upper body connection. The first one we look at is the idea of collar and sleeve, which enables us to influence his posture. When he tries to posture up, difficult. And we want some kind of lower body connection. The safest one for most people is to get their feet connected inside their training partner's knees. So when he goes to work his way past, it's going to be difficult for him to do so, and the whole time we can start to go into advantageous attacking positions. So your first form of connection as you work with the training partner in front of you is going to be to get a hold of your training partner's cross collar. Then we take a hold of the sleeve cuff, just like so, and we work with our feet inside, sticky hooks inside our training partner's knees. Let's rotate this way, Brian. You'll notice that when we connect, I don't just have my feet loosely inside. I use my feet actively to hook into my training partner's legs. So the whole time he feels a constant off balancing from this position, and from here potentially we could move into various forms of closer contact. So the first method of connection will be cross collar, sleeve cuff, and my feet inside my training partner's knees. And from here we can be highly effective in these positions. Second method of connection, also very effective. Training partners above us, we get that same, let's go on this side. We get that same cross collar grip, and from here we're going to work with our training partner's gi pants. We are not allowed to put fingers inside the gi pants, so we're going to work on the outside of our training partner's pants. Here, with a fully legal grip, we have 4 fingers hook into our training partner's gi pants cuff. We just hook in like so. From here, we can hook from the outside. You can hook from the inside. Again, the cross collar controls his posture. When he tries to posture up, it's a difficult thing to achieve. We can lift our training partner's feet off the ground and start working our way into all manner of different grips and control this guy. This is an excellent position to control people and start to off-balance them. Okay, if he goes to pass my guard from here, it's going to be a difficult thing for him to do so. You have excellent connection to his body, regardless of lower body connection. This is an excellent way for us to work and will enable you to get through to some of our most effective grips. The third form of connection is when we're seated. We have an opponent in front of us. He's got a leg forward to pass. From here, we're going to place our shin in front of our training partner's foot. We're going to get a hold of our training partner's calf muscle and hold it in this position here. If his leg is back and away, we can make our opponent step wherever we want, so we can go into all forms of connection to his body. Okay? No matter where he is, he can back step, you're still connected to him. You can make him step forward. You can take his foot up off the ground and go into all kinds of other form of connection. Okay, this is an excellent way to nail one of your opponent's legs in place, form an immediate connection, and then restrict his movement. When I have no contact with my opponent's legs, he can move at will. Once we go in here, my shin controls the front of his leg, my hand and wrist control the back of the leg. When he goes to shake the leg away from me, it's a difficult thing to do. And from here, this will enable us to go in many different ways. So, 3 simple ways to connect your opponent. The first 2 are typically done in situations where you are supine. And the first one is cross collar and sleeve cuff, with my feet typically in the inside position, working like so. The second is going to be cross collar and gi pants. Rotate, just like so. And we work from this position with our feet either inside or outside. Okay, and from here you have an excellent connection to your opponent. The third method is when we're seated. And from here we attack the lead foot by placing our foot in front, getting a hold of our training partner, and now one of his legs is stapled to the ground. You have excellent control over one of his legs. He can move the other leg, but you can move it too. You can make him step where you want him to go. And you can always switch off into other forms of grip and attack from here. Okay? So, 3 simple ways to connect to your opponent that restrict the movement and get us away from the worst case scenario. Just reminding you, the worst case scenario is one where I have no contact with him. And now he can move around as he wishes. Whether I be supine or seated. This is a dangerous situation for an older, less athletic person to be in. This is the situation where it's most likely that I will feel and come on the wrong end of the stick with regards to his superior speed, athleticism, fitness overall, etc. But we can make things a lot better for ourselves by establishing initial connections to our opponent. Sleeve cuff, gi pants, or shin to shin, on our training partners lead leg. All three provide an excellent initial connection, which will enable you to swim your way into the various attacking positions that we'll be looking at in this video.